Questions about what engages kids and causes them to be curious, and as Alan Luke says, entails connecting, the ideas in the curriculum with ideas out there that kids are interested in, is very much a question that comes out of, what psychologists call a constructivist view of learning, which is to say, kids have kind of a background of intellectual resources they bring to bear in their understanding of new ideas. And when you ask under what conditions would they naturally be curious and intellectually engaged, there's kind of two ways of answering that question, I think. The first, staying with kind of the constructivist notion, is they're engaged in things they have some initial grasp of, but perhaps it's more complex than their understanding at the present time. So you want to be able to nourish that understanding by building on what they already know, always under circumstances where they can see the sense of the novelty that's being introduced into the instruction. It's sort of like Vygotsky's concept of the zone of proximal development, right? Which is a big mouthful for saying, if you start a long distance away from what kids already understand, you're going to have a lot of trouble bridging the gap. And the difficulty bridging the gap is actually one of the best rationales for peer instruction, in my mind, which is to say, another student is often much closer to the understanding of his or her friend than the teacher is naturally. They're inside the minds of 8-year-olds in a way that it's increasingly difficult for a teacher to be. And so the opportunity for that person, that child, that peer to make a connection is sometimes much better than it would be for a teacher. So the first answer is kind of the constructivist answer. Build understanding slowly, being careful to know in advance what it is the kids can bring to this new idea. But the second kind of broader question is, under what conditions would students not be naturally curious and engaged? I mean, that's the better question, because they start naturally curious and engaged in almost anything. Right? You look at very young children. I'm now having this experience with my grandkids. They can get intensely engaged, in almost anything. Kids are born, humans are born with the need to learn. I mean, that's how we survive. We learn our way forward. And it's sort of the conditions that stand in the way of that natural curiosity that we need to worry about, like a curriculum that doesn't provide kids with an opportunity to explore ideas they're interested in, or instruction that doesn't provide reasons why kids should be interested in things they might not identify initially as interesting. I mean, there has to be, in good classroom instruction, a negotiation going on between what kids might find initially interesting and what the curriculum is all about, based on adults' views of what kids will need to know in the future. And there's nothing wrong with having that curriculum in place, but it does mean that one of the teacher's major jobs is to help kids see the purpose for that curriculum. And as much as possible, of course, link it to ideas that they find initially very engaging. And the more we get away from efforts to convince kids that the curriculum is going to be meaningful to them now and in the future, or the longer the span is between what they're finding they understand now and are curious about and the new learning, that less likely it is that they'll be engaged.